Hey, welcome to another album today, and today we have Trivium again because, I kept listening to them, so I was like, yeah, sure, let's do Trivium again. But today we have the follow-up to yesterday's album, Silence in the Snow, with The Sin and the Sentence. And yeah, look, this album is way heavier than yesterday's, especially because here they actually got a new drummer, and this drummer is much more energetic than the one they had in Silence in the Snow. Way more energetic, like it's crazy. It's actually very funny how the more notes you play, the heavier it sounds, which is very interesting with drumming. Because usually, when it comes to guitars, for example, or bass or whatever, if you want it to sound heavy, you just like tune it down to sound heavier. But with drums, you're just like, oh yeah, you just like drum more, like that's the quality of something sounding heavy, but yeah, he brings a crazy energy to this album. Like, this album has just insane energy. I mean, it starts super strong right away. It starts with The Sin and the Sentence, the song that has the name of the album, but that song just starts super strong, and pretty much every single song in the album sort of follows that registry of very strong drumming, very fast, very energetic, which I actually really enjoy because it brings this sort of heaviness to Trivium. But, and here's the thing, just like how I said yesterday about, the clean vocals of Matt and everything, well, this album does have a lot of clean vocal moments, right? In fact, this album does a very good dynamic between especially the layered vocals of, screaming plus clean vocals. So it's a really cool dynamic that's going on. I mean, it's not, I guess, anything new, it has been done before, I mean, to death, to a point, actually. Like, plenty of bands have done that, but yeah, honestly, it sounds really cool, especially amidst the, song just sounding very heavy and everything. It sounds very cool, and the songs sometimes actually also do sort of stop and, I'll let you breathe and sort of go more into these slower paced moments before picking up again, which is nice because you don't want, balls to the wall all the time. So in a way, even though this album is actually heavier than Silence in the Snow, I would say that it actually has a lot of the same composition. Like, it's literally, to me, this album feels like Silence in the Snow, but with just a drummer that can play faster, honestly, and it's really funny to see people's reception to this album, where people are like, oh, like the good old Trivium are back or whatever, and I'm sitting there like, I mean, this is kind of the same thing as they were doing in Silence in the Snow. It's just that, well, here you just have a faster drummer, which, yeah, sure, makes things sound heavier, that's for sure, but still, it's still the same Trivium, I guess, that we had in Silence in the Snow. Again, it's really cool because you do have those more heavy moments, you have the more slower moments and everything. It does a very good job at sort of balancing itself out, but it's very interesting to see the contrast between Silence in the Snow and this, especially because a lot of songs there are actually much longer than Silence in the Snow. Silence in the Snow songs used to be around like 3-4 minute mark. Here, almost every single one of them is like 5 minutes. Bar like a few exceptions, bar like 2 songs, I guess, and even then one of them is 4 minutes and a half, so yeah, well, I guess 3 songs, but yeah, there's only one song there's less than 4 minutes, actually, but yes, obviously the album, it does have more, I guess, out there songs. I think Silence in the Snow was very consistent in that regard, that every song kind of like, quote-unquote, sounded the same, or at least was in the same registry. This album actually has a little bit of a different flair to it, because there are some songs that are a bit more, I guess, different. Yeah, sure, you have songs like The Sin and the Sentence, or Beyond Oblivion, that follow The Sin and the Sentence. Betrayer also follows it, The Wretchedness Inside, and The Revanchist, whatever, and Thrown into the Fire. Like, those songs all follow sort of the same registry of, The Sin and the Sentence, just balls to the wall, very energetic. Yeah, you have some like clean vocal moments, especially in the chorus, but it's mostly very energetic stuff. However, you also have songs that are a bit more, I guess, out there, especially a bit more slower paced, which is kind of ironic how the previous album, even though it was supposed to be more slower paced and more focused on Matt's vocals, ended up actually having a lot more songs that were more energetic than here. But I guess here, when you have a drummer that is this energetic, you also do have the space to afford to, just kind of have songs that aren't as energetic, right? Because, and that's the thing, like, there's very cool songs like, Beauty in the Sorrow, or, what was the other one? Other Worlds, which sound they're more toned down, they're a bit slower than the rest of the album. They still have some heaviness to it, but they are definitely songs that would fit Silence in the Snow much more, in my opinion, than they fit this album. Not they don't fit this album, they still do, but, in terms of like registry, I think it would fit that album much more than this one, right? I mean, there's a lot of songs in Silence in the Snow that I think would fit this album better if you just add a drummer that also had, faster capabilities. I don't want to like thrash the previous drummer too much because there's a huge difference when it comes to how the sound feels because of the difference in the drummers, right? And even then you have other songs like The Heart from Your Hate. This is basically the Until the World Goes Cold of this album, right? It's one of those songs where it's mostly focused on there's a lot of moments where it's mostly just Matt singing. It's actually very, very toned down. Although it does open a little bit strong, and you do have moments that are a bit heavier, but for the most part it's, I guess, the quote-unquote ballad of the album, and it's a pretty damn good song as well, because it's a very, very good song. Ironically, it's also the song that has the most views on YouTube out of this album, so as much as people might say that, like Trivium sold out because they're not heavy anymore or whatever, I'm not sure, honestly, because people do seem to enjoy the more songs where, it's more like ballads, more toned down, where they take more time to actually, perhaps, what's the words I'm trying to use, like, just allow you to enjoy the song, I guess. Previous album, the, I guess, least heavy song had the most views. This album, least heavy song has the most views. I'm sensing a pattern here. Maybe Trivium fans are actually huge fans of just toned down songs and they don't want all of the aggressiveness and all of the energy all the time. It's a pretty great song. And it's by far the, I guess, outlier of the album, but even then the rest of the album is pretty good, and I'm telling you that the drummer makes such a huge difference, by the way. Outside of the drummer, obviously it's pretty cool to see the dynamic, because they have two guitarists, because Matt sings and plays the guitar, that dynamic is also usually really cool, because sometimes you have the rhythm guitar doing one thing and then you have the lead guitar doing another. In the Sin and the Sentences, for example, you get to a section where both guitars are kind of like the lead guitar, and one plays a more like toned down, or not toned down, a more like bassier version, like in lower notes than the other, and there's sort of like this little call-and response to it. It kind of feels, or at least sounds, like something more classical than necessarily metal, and it sounds really cool. It's a very cool dynamic, and I don't know, like, I feel that here this album just really shows that Trivium had gotten to a point where they really like know each other and understand each other musically, to the point where they are able to pull that off very convincingly. And I mean, like, when I say that the Sin and the Sentence is, super energetic, but especially when comparatively speaking to the previous album, that song especially is balls to the wall all the fucking time. Like, throughout, beginning, middle, end, it's just constantly energy, and I like it for that. I actually do enjoy. I don't know, like, it's a very weird thing, because with Slipknot I like their energy as well, but I think that here it's like it's a different type of energy. You know what I mean? Like, it's perhaps more controlled. It's not as chaotic, but there's still a lot of like energy and everything. So I'm obviously I'm a fan. Now, one last thing that I want to talk about before I actually rate the album, which is I usually listen to these things on YouTube more than I do on other platforms. I mean, sometimes I listen to it on other platforms because I can't find it on YouTube, because but on YouTube, a lot of the songs in the album, not every song has a video clip. They have a visualizer, and that visualizer is different for every single song that they have. Right, so every single song is a little different visualizer. It's super simple visualizers, but they actually are very in theme with the rest of the album, and I actually love them, because I think more bands should like do these things, because it's relatively easy to make, because again, like, it's just very simple little things. But they give personality to the album, and they give personality to the songs. They're unique, right? It's not all the same, right? So for the most part, I actually love them quite a bit, and I don't know, like, I think that Trivium is actually very underrated when it comes to their album cover thing. Usually their album art actually does a very good job at, just like yesterday, they do a very good job at, just setting the atmosphere. And I think that oftentimes people don't really pay that much attention to that, So yeah, I just kind of wanted to shout that out. Oh, another thing that I just remember actually that I didn't even talk about yesterday. The bass is really good, and you can actually hear it. This is a problem that I usually see in metal, especially where the heavier the music genre tends to be, the less of the bass you hear. And with Trivium, you actually do hear the bass quite a bit, especially in sections where, because sometimes guitars take a little bit of a break to let sort of the bass do the rhythm, and it's pretty cool. I think the bass sounds really nice, and I'm always a huge fan when, bassists are able to be appreciated because their fucking instrument is actually, heard in the mix, as opposed to just being, oh yeah, you're playing the exact same thing as a drum or the exact same thing as the rhythm guitar, and no one will be able to hear that you're actually playing it. Sorry, which is always a shame because, a good bass can honestly make or break a fucking band, and when you have a bassist and they're able to actually stand out and they're able to actually, perform and fucking people are able to listen to it, I think it completely gives a different dynamic to the music, and I think that with Trivium, I think it's a big part of Trivium. I think the bass is a big part of Trivium. Like, okay, cool the guitars and the drumming and everything, but I think the bass just really is the glue in this band that brings everything together, and that makes sure that everything goes smooth and that there's a certain transition between the sounds of the drum and the sounds of the guitar. Right, sort of the bass is like the highway between both, if you will. Right, it sort of fills in the little voids here and there, and you're able to just hear it quite well, thankfully. So yeah, I just wanted to shout that out, that as well. But yeah, other than that, I think I've talked everything. I might remember something and then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot that, but whatever. As for my 5 meter, yesterday I gave that album a 9 out of 10. Today, honestly, I'm feeling the same. I'm feeling like a 9 out of 10. I don't know why, like, honestly, there isn't really anything in this album that I'm like, oh, I dislike this, or at least, because yesterday there were, like, a couple of problems, but today I'm like, yeah, no, everything's just kind of fine, but I guess I don't, again, like, I always like to respect my 5 meter. If my 5 meter is 9 out of 10, then it's 9 out of 10. But yeah, that's it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, just one more thing, there's subscriptions, or there's a link in the description, rather, with a link that you can just submit whatever you want me to hear and make a little review of. It might take a while for me to get to it, but you can.